Can you tell how many people are on, or don't you know?
Hi, welcome. My name is Sarah Rossi. I'm the creative and managing director for the Watershed Journal. We're sitting here at Watershed Books with a new author series with Joe Taylor. And just a little bit about Joe. He's the author of I'm Just Lucky to Own My Own Car, which came out recently. And he has been in radio all of his life, so part of the joy today is going to be hearing him read his words in his own wonderful performing voice. He's won a number of awards for series and documentaries that he's done, so he's a practiced storyteller. He's the father of two daughters who also took on the writing, Jean, Alexis, and Jackie. And he's been in Writer's Block Party, the social group, for almost 3 years, and he's appeared in every single edition of the Watershed Journal. So we love hearing him. We love getting to hear his stories. So I'm going to hand it over to Joe here in just a moment. But for those of you who are signing on, please feel free to use the chat as he's reading to put your reactions. And of course, there's the reaction button there where you can do your faces and your emojis and stuff. And then after Joe's done reading, we're going to do a Q&A with everyone who's logged into the Air Meet. So you'll be able to come on and interact with Joe, let him know your responses and your questions and your comments. And so here is Joe. No further ado.
I was hoping there'd be more ado, but maybe we can do some of that later on. Thanks, Sarah. People have asked me to describe what the book is, and it basically is observational. There are 60 pieces, and it loosely follows the arc of my life, with a lot of observations, personal observations about people I have known, situations I've been in, and sometimes just observations that are just coming out of my brain and are off somewhere. I call them delusions. Anyhow, I'm going to begin with a piece that really kind of begins my existence. It's called "The Grave of the Unknown Father." I stood at my father's grave, the grave of the soldier who died 8 months after I was born, a father I never knew. My daughter and son-in-law thought the respectful thing to do was to step away, give me time with my father. I wish they hadn't. I stood there on a blue sky Normandy day trying to do what I guess would be expected of a son at his never-known father's grave, to tell him I love him, that I hope I've made him proud. His cross, all of the crosses, weren't wood as I had assumed from the photos I'd seen. They were fine Italian marble. Ironic, my father immortalized in fine Italian marble. He left me none of his Latin good looks, only his weak and troubled wife. He was buried here alone across the sea. She could have brought him home, but believed until the day she died that he was alive, that it wasn't him under this ground, that somehow he had survived. Fortune tellers had told her he survived, somehow, amnesia, a quadriplegic. She believed he had lived, and there could be no adequate replacement for him. Finally, when I thought a respectful amount of time had passed, I stepped away from the grave. My daughter, in what she meant as a thoughtful gesture, scooped a handful of dirt from the grave, bagged it, and gave it to me. I have it somewhere, in the basement or the attic, or somewhere. Another piece that is observational, as I said most of these really are, is something I do on a regular basis. I basically can't help myself, and I observe things that are going on around me in the community that I live, in the neighborhood, in stores, just everywhere, and they prompt me to write stories about them. And this is something that I wrote. It's called Stop, simply S-T-O-P. Back when everyone read newspapers and every corner had a payphone, there were reporters with the word press stuck into their fedoras, like you'd always see in the movies. They'd read their stories over the phone to their editors and end a line with the word stop. I'm not a reporter, but I see stories everywhere I look, stories I need to write about. Like today in Walmart, I saw this dope-head mother pushing a screaming toddler in her cart, taking her arm full length back and smacking the kid in the face. Stop! I saw a raggedy old lady, figured there was a story there. I watched her in Subway, look for a long time at the menu. I watched her take coins from her purse, count them again, buy a bag of chips, and then ask for a glass of water. Stop. On the way home, I drove by what used to be a mom-and-pop neighborhood grocery store. I imagined the kids who went in there. What a story I could write about it. The kids getting free Tootsie Rolls from the old man owner who went broke and died alone in the nursing home. Stop. There's all kinds of junk in my deadbeat neighbor's yard, including his skin and bone dogs chained out summer and winter. I'll write that story and send it to the Humane Society. The punk next door is beating up his living again. Her kid is wailing. I see these stories, the pain, the crazy. Stop! Again, observational. This time I was observing a movie that was out maybe, I guess, about 10 years ago. And I observed one part of it that really just stayed with me. And I kind of went off on that and reflected back on other similar situations that I had observed in my life and involving people that I know. The name of the piece is Slightly Off. The Charlize Theron movie Monster about serial killer Aileen Wuornos really disturbed me. No, not when she brutally, vengefully killed those Johns who had solicited her. It's the scene in which she's applying for an office job, making one last desperate grasp at normalcy. She's wearing the wrong clothes, saying the wrong things. She's so painfully wrong that even knowing how casually she has and will slaughter men, your heart aches for her. Yet there are moments when it seems maybe she has a chance. But then no, they see she is slightly off. The only solace is that she is so unaware of how out of place, how off she is. My Italian grandmother in a cloth coat in fractured English, advocating for me after a schoolyard brawl to the highly coiffed, condescending, business-suited principal of my grammar school, sputtering emotion, being met with bureaucratic cool, was, even to my fifth-grade eyes, slightly off. The most sophisticated woman I ever dated, a big-city Jewish lady, told me not to stand with my wallet open at the cash register, because her immigrant father, who, by the way, built a business from a pushcart, used to do that. And it annoyed her because it didn't seem American. It was too peasant. It was slightly off. My ex-wife was a good-looking woman, very personable, very immediately friendly, perhaps too friendly, when we attended country club functions, hobnobbing with the local bank presidents, university faculty, pillars of the community and their snooty wives. My ex's laugh was too loud, lasted too long. Her girlfriend touches were premature. I could only cringe as I observed in their body language that the victims of her friendliness did. It was obvious. She was slightly off. She, like Aileen, was impervious to her out-of-placeness. But unlike the murderous Miss Wuornos, she never killed a man. But I remained vigilant. I don't think she's got me. She isn't here, is she? I have places that are just special places to me. And I just love to go there and just relax, reflect, and again, observe. And one of them is the Green at Burton, Ohio. I was there, I think it was a couple of summers ago, and I observed a young mother and her little son. And I kind of took that scene and developed really a life story for this kid. And this is it. It's called, the piece is The Green at Burton, Ohio. There's a log cabin, a sugar house on the Green at Burton, Ohio. They make maple syrup there in the spring and maple candy year-round. Tourists and day trippers come, visit it, leave. A young mother from town jogs on the sidewalk encircling the Green, pushing a stroller, a little tyke along for the ride. They pull under a shady maple. She prepares a spread, half a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, juice box, a peach sliced into baby bites. The boy, a toddler, walks his drunken sailor walk to pick a dandelion, chase a bird. He'll come back here many times, a lifetime of times. No parents will be needed or wanted when he and his buddies sneak under the green. It officially closes at sundown, drinking beers, hiding them from cop cars on patrol. He'll come here with women, girls at first to chase. Some will kiss and tell, some kiss and run away, leaving him with lonely park bench memories. He'll come here with her, to stroll, hold hands, kiss, deeper, sweeter than maple syrup. A wedding, vows under these maples. A little girl will come with him too, a girl, yet like him, toddling over to the dandelions like he had. More inventive than he was, bringing them back to him. They're butter, Daddy. Taste one. He won't come here for a long time. He'll be busy, job and family and all. He'll drive by the green, take a quick look, mean to stop, mean to remember, but he'll have to be on his way. The funeral service will have concluded. His wife departed. The family, acquaintances, and condolences dispersed. He'll be drawn here now, just to sit under the maple trees, to remember, to be with the green, an old friend he grew up with. All the others have gone. He never once visited the log cabin, the maple sugar house. The tourists and day trippers did. They came to the green, visited, and went on their way. He never left. His life was always here. I write some stuff that is stuff, and it's, I guess, designed to rankle or tweak or whatever. I read this at one of our writers group meetings, and it tweaked, it rankled. I think I was asked to leave that meeting. I
we do that often.
Yes, okay. It's called Comfort Zone. Okay, shouldn't be laughing at my own stuff. Okay. If you were all snuggled up in a warm, cozy winter bed and I came along and tore the covers off you, exposing you to an ice-cold morning, how would you like it? If you were contentedly feeding your face with your mom's mac and cheese, and just as you were raising another forkful of comfort to your mouth, I replaced it with a Brussels sprout, how would you like it? If you had your game on TV, the big one, the one you waited all week to see and bought wings and pizza and beer to celebrate it, and I changed the channel to PBS, how would you like it? I would, of course, tell you that I was trying to help you, trying to get you out of your comfort zone. The code will toughen you up. The sprouts will nourish you. PBS will enlighten you. You'd say, bullshit. Why then do some people insist that I, or anyone for that matter, have to come out of our comfort zone? We've all taken great care to construct our comfort zone. It's warm. It's safe. It's comfortable. Then the last one is something that this happens once in a while. I think it happens to all of us that write. This pretty much wrote itself in the moment as I was experiencing it. I had it in my head. I got back to my hotel and it came out. This last year, I revisited a beach that I used to go to when I was a kid. Up in Rochester, New York, Ontario Beach Park. The name of the piece, Ontario Beach Park, 1950, 2020. The rusty creak of the swings, back and forth, back and forth. The seats are plastic, wooden ones replaced. The metal skeleton still firmly grounded, the cement holding reinforced. The squeals, a din continuous, through changing playmates, changing times. Do I hear my 6-year-old squeal? We came here, my family and me, on the bus. The canopy bus loop is gone. Families come in cars now, multi-generational families like mine back then. Little kids excited, run ahead. Too far ahead. Grandma's warning in broken English. Ours was Italian, theirs Spanish, Indian, foreign like ours. In their embarrassment at Grandma's foreign tongue, her odd beach-inappropriate dress, do these kids comprehend her sacrifice that will allow them this day on the swings and in the sand? Will they hear the silent prayer of thanks she gives at the strength given her to make this day happen? Do they? Did I? At 6 years old, we see the world in the moment as it should be. The past is boring, the stale smell of an uncle's breath. The future is anticipated no further than beyond an ice cream, allowed a half hour after swimming, an interminable wait. The start of school a threat out there somewhere. Growing up may as well be a fairy tale. 6-year-olds come and 76-year-olds come back. The public beach remains open to all. There have always been muscle-bound guys, girls in skimpy bathing suits. Then they were grouped, the freckled Irish, lily-white wasps, the swarthy Italians. Now it's a mix and match, black and white, brown and yellow, hijabs and bikinis. Anomalies or hope come back in 70 years. What should I say to these 6-year-olds? Have fun, enjoy the day? What would I say to my 6-year-old self? Would I tell him about the magical day he'll meet her, or the loneliness of his first divorced Christmas? Will I tell him about the job that was going to make it all different now, or eating generic food bank peanut butter? Or will I tell him that somehow you'll get through it? I tell him to have fun, enjoy the day. That's all I have. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Joe. Thank you so much for that. It's so great to hear you picked a great variety of pieces.
Thank you.
And here in just a second, I'm going to bring Jess on.
Okay.
To give
she's got the real stuff.
She's got the grilling questions for you, and then we're going to let other people come on, and everyone else who is here on Air Meet. We're going to welcome you to come on and interact with Joe in just a minute. But what I wanted to do, the chat lines were going great while you were reading, so I wanted to take just a moment. And just talking about how great your voice is. Again, you just have you're a born performer. Powerful reading. I know that feeling of being in a moment and not knowing what you should be feeling or saying, but knowing it was significant. And laughter, of course. Love your mix of seriousness and humor. The way Joe views the world is just so deep and reflective. It's so interesting. It makes me want to pay more attention to the small details going on in the world and relate things to my own life. And that's exactly it. Someone else comments, he gives us permission to laugh at things that are simultaneously troubling and sad. And someone else said that it's all in your tone. And that you're so like a little boy when you read. You're so passionate that your youth just coming through. And then there's people saying how much they could relate to what you said, and they were glad they could tune in. And then there was a comment on Facebook that I wanted to, because we've got some people joining us there as well. Lori comments that you have such a heartfelt way of telling stories through your observations. I love how your writing style and how it evokes thought and feeling and humor. And Christina loved this so much. So we're grateful for everyone who's joining with us. Jess, I'm going to bring you on now with Joe to give him the 3rd degree.
Yeah, Jess warned me. Yeah. It's going to be rough. Is she there?
She's coming on, and then I'll switch you over. I just have to go see it.
There you are.
Here I am.
Can we hear her? I don't think we can hear her.
I don't think we can hear her. Oh. That may be me. Now we can hear you.
Good?
Yeah, good. Okay. Yeah.
Hello.
Hey, I was trying.
Here with you, but man, this is it's fun to be able to tune in like this and see what's going on. You guys are doing a great job. So I've got a question for you if you're ready.
Yeah.
All right. So I know that when we've talked about your work and you've talked about it in workshops and meetings and stuff, a big part of the conversation has been how much of what you write is you, and how much is kind of this narrator that is, in some ways an exaggeration, or some ways an exercise in empathy, or in some ways just kind of like going off and letting your imagination take over. So in this particular collection, in this book, with these observational stories, how much would you say is representing you and your views and your experience, and how much is just kind of, your imagination taking over?
I would probably say, and I mean, I could go back, there are 60 pieces all told in the book, but just roughly, I would say probably about a third, and a third. That a third, like a couple of these, obviously the last one was me, so there's the very personal, the author, that would be, we'll say the green at Burton, Ohio, where I'm observing it. And then comfort zone, that's the third, that's just kind of, I'm vamping, it's delusional. Yeah. So I would say a third, and a third, roughly. Yeah.
The one that I really was curious about was stop, because if I remember the conversation around that one, some of it, some of those observations were things that you did actually see, and then some
Yeah,
were things you made up.
yeah. It really began observing that woman and the kid, the baby, the toddler, in Walmart, and that just gave me the impetus to find other situations like that I had seen and kind of collecting them, or that I could imagine. I mean, you drive by an empty store that obviously had been the corner grocery store, and I kind of take it off from there because I needed. It sounds kind of maybe too antiseptic or whatever, but I have a grocery store. I need an image to give it a bit of pathos, a bit of develop something from it. So I developed the fact that it was owned by an old guy who gave kids Tootsie Rolls, and he died alone. And also speaks to, and I don't really think I met. Well, I guess I did mean it at the time too. The demise of little grocery stores, little independent stores that we don't have anymore. You don't think about that. These are things I'll think about. There's a store that used to be the grocery store. People used to come there. Big box stores come in and they're gone. And it takes, in this case, I'm really stretching my imagination now. It damages this guy to the point that he loses his business. And he was a great guy and gave kids, candy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love how you're able to do that, where you take something that's very much grounded in an experience you have and a reality that you perceive, and then you kind of riff off of reality in a way. So it's always interesting to see where the kernel of truth is in your piece, and then where you kind of.
My only caution is doing that in real life gets me into some terrible situations. But other than that, it works on the page. Okay.
Well, thank you. I know there are other questions, so I won't monopolize, but this was great. Thanks so much.
Sure. Thank you.
All right. I'm going to get you off the stage there, kick you off. So if you are on AirMeet and you have a question or a response, or you'd like to interact with Joe for a little bit, just click that raise hand button. To start us off, I have a question from John Posa, who's having trouble with the audio, but he still wanted to ask you a question. And yeah, I can see it here. So I'll face it to you.
Okay. Is he typing your question?
Yeah, I'll let you know. I wanted to ask you if you occasionally voice your observations or part of your observational writing into your iPhone to save for reference later. I find this often helps me write the way I speak.
No, I really don't. No, I don't. I don't.
Yeah,
I don't.
Are you not a jotter downer?
I will jot down just on I have a yellow pad with me. I'll jot down on the yellow pad the essence of an idea. Like I wrote a couple of weeks ago, I did a thing on missing Friday nights and going to a bar, and I had written that concept down, and then I looked at it. No, I think I'll develop this. So yeah, I don't do it. I don't do it that way, John. We all do it different ways. Sometimes, like I say, and I think everybody does this, is that darn thing comes to you intact, and you just open up and it comes out. I mean, then you go back and edit it a million times, but it's there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. We've got some raised hands here. Hold on one second. Lynn Gross, come on the screen.
Hey, Lynn.
Hi, Joe. How are you?
Good.
My question for you: when you read, you have such character to how you read and emotion. And when you write, do you write in stances so that you can read it as that, or do you just know yourself well enough that while you're writing? Now, I don't know if I'm getting my question out right, but basically, do you read how you write and then just add your character to it?
No, I don't. I don't write it with the intent of reading it any particular way. Okay. I don't write it as if I was reading or writing a radio script or anything I would do on the radio. I write it purely. I write it purely to be read on a piece of paper. When I did the reading now, I rehearsed that and went over it and everything else to try to convey the emotion of what I had written, but I don't write it with the intent of it being a spoken piece.
Okay, because when you read it, I mean, I'm listening to you thinking that you just are so you're like on task with it when you do it. It's amazing. I sit and watch you and think you could definitely, like the girls were saying earlier, you could narrate our lives because you're so good at it.
No, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Lynn.
Welcome, guys.
All right, and we're just going to take a break right here to see. We have just a couple of people in the house today, and I wanted to take one question from in the house before going on with it. Does anybody just to put if we have no questions, then we can go back to the online thing. That Peggy has a question for us.
So I understand you have another book coming. Do you have any idea on when?
Yeah, I'll be. In fact, Patty Zion is sitting here in the room, and Patty edited it for me. It will be. I hate to say a major book, but I mean, as far as lengthwise, it's 62,000 words.
And she's asking about in case the question didn't come through, she's asking about a new book.
Yeah, that'll be coming. Yeah, that'll be coming
out.
Yeah, I'm going to bring it out in the fall. It's roughly about my 60-year career in radio, but it's not all about, and then I went from here to there and did this and did that. It's, again, observational. I mean, it's about different people I've worked with, people that work for me, different radio stations that I worked at, being on the air, for example, when JFK was shot. And then I also try to, and make it as interesting as possible, explain the radio industry, which is really experiencing a very slow, painful death. And I get into, how the FCC works, why you hear people like Rush Limbaugh, or not anymore, obviously, on the air, and the way radio stations used to be so critical to a community. And there are 25-year-old kids who don't even probably have never listened to a commercial radio station. So it's comprehensive. It's looking at the business from the inside out. And I think it's a pretty interesting book, and I'm going to try to go for a pretty wide distribution because I still think there is some interest in the business. And then after that, a year after that, I just finished it. It's a book on growing up Italian American in the 50s. So yeah. So my goal really is to live for 2 more years so these books can be out. And,
Good question, Peggy. All right, we've got a couple questions here. And again, guys, please feel free to raise your hand if you're joining us from Air Meet. I got a question from Brittany. Here, I forget that I can switch between all the technology.
Can you bring Britt up?
Yeah. Brittany asks, what's one piece in your book that you would not want to read aloud in a group like this?
Well, I know the answer because I think I hold the distinction of the only person not being allowed to publish a piece in the Watershed Journal, and it was State of the Cheeseburger. It was a little bit too controversial, so that would be the one that I probably would not read because Jess would get mad, you would get mad, and I'd be asked to leave. Yeah, and it wouldn't be going to the big after read party that you've arranged.
Oh, right? Yes. We do love to keep you out. Yeah. All right, let's see what else we got here.
And by the way, I have to say, because my stuff is apparently personal. No, there are certain things, if you want to broaden the question, and people have asked me this, that I would not write about. Certain things about my life or things that I might be experiencing that I just would not write about. Some of the things that are in the book are things that are very personal, but they were things that are so far in my future in my past, I can look back on them as I'm looking back on watching a movie. But no, I couldn't. I don't know if anybody really could just write a total in the moment expose of myself and what. Yeah.
Too hard.
Yeah.
I want to take another question from in the room. Anybody have a comment or a question they'd like to share? Ed?
How long have you been writing? Did you start writing when you were young, or after you were more involved in your radio career?
No, I started. I remember as in grammar school, I wrote a lot. I would basically write like skits and things. If I was in social studies or whatever, I'd write a skit about something. And I always wrote. Um, when I got into radio, I really, and especially when I got into management, I really walked away, as I think a lot of us do, from the creative side of ourselves. And I did not really start writing in earnest until about maybe 10 or 15 years ago as I started to retire. And, uh, and then obviously 3 years ago when I got involved with the group, it's just been nonstop since then.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I have a question from John Posa. Joe, you're talking about your book about growing up at Italian American in the 50s. He's wondering how it will be different and unique from other books on a similar topic.
Well, because it's not like a sociological type of thing. It's again personal experience. It's families, different families. It's not looking at percentages of this and that and whatever. It's not analytical. It's a lot like the stuff that I write. It's all based on, the way one ant makes meatballs versus another ant makes meatballs, and it becomes a feud that lasts for 20 years. It's that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also the thrust of it is that what the public sees of Italian Americans, is maybe comical, like the push cart guy or the guy with the organ grinder with the monkey with a goofy Italian accent, or Tony Soprano.
Mm-hmm.
And real Italians are in between. And it also does discuss some discrimination that took place against Italian Americans. And there's some instances within my family that I observed that. So it's again I guess whether I want to or not, what I write is very personal, and again based on observation. Yeah.
Great question. All right, if we have anybody else asking questions from Jeremy, feel free to raise your hand or post them. Do we have another question from the group? Are we questioned out? Good job, Megan.
Well, okay. In one of the blurbs that I did to promote this, I mentioned that I would like what do a serial killer, which was Aileen Wuornos, your mother's mac and cheese, which I mentioned in Comfort Food, and Ralph Cramden have in common. And it would be disclosed today. Well, I erred because I did not read the piece that involved using the name Ralph Cramden. So the only advice I can give is to find out, buy the book. You'll find the missing Ralph Cramden is in there.
Yes.
Okay. So,
and this book is available.
It's available right here as we speak at the Watershed bookstore. It's available thanks to John Miller at Art Funkels and Clarion, and online at Amazon Books.
And on bookshop.org as well.
Is it?
Yeah.
Did you put it there?
No, it just comes up.
Oh, does it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I don't understand how this.
I don't understand how it works.
Because I see these people and I wonder, well, how am I seeing Jess? How does?
It's all a big mystery in life.
Yeah, I want to thank everyone for joining in, and I want to thank the group and everyone for supporting me the way they have, and I think it's wonderful. The great thing about our group is, and if there are people who are not in the group, it is so supportive of all of us. And we're all at different stages, and we're all learning from each other. And what you guys have done here with the bookstore, oh my God, yeah, this is great. Yeah. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Joe. It's always a pleasure getting to hang out with you and talk with you. And everybody who joined us, thank you so much for being here today, sharing your afternoon with us. Supporting each other's success and supporting each other as writers is part of the fun of Writers Block Party. And the group that Joe's talking about is the social arm of Writers Block Party, which We've been doing monthly meetings online for now. We have a Facebook page that's private. It's a safe place to post the stuff you're writing and get feedback from other writers, get prompts and people sharing all the rejection letters they're also getting and all kinds of stuff like that. So if you're a Facebook person, join us on Facebook. At the end of every month, we've been having online meetings, and we're so looking forward to the day when we can all be together. In fact, we're working really hard on setting up our outdoor space, so that can be sooner rather than later. And so we hope that you'll join us then. I'm just going to look at my calendar real quick to see what's coming up. At the last Sunday of the month, I think is our next event, which is the Writers Block Party meeting. That'll be happening at 2. Again, it'll be through AirMeet, but we'll be at the small tables, so it's small groups where you can read your stuff. And then we have on the 11th, we have Phil Turman. On April 11th, we have Phil Turman coming in, and then on May 16th, we have Jess Weibel. So if you have other ideas for literary events that you'd like to host, please contact us here. Keep up with us on our website, thewatershedjournal.org, and our Facebook, The Watershed Journal. Otherwise, thank you guys so much. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon.